Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. To round out my reviews of movies made in 2022, I wanted to talk about the new movie, The Whale. The Whale is A24's newest film and is directed by Darren Aronofsky. Aronofsky is best known for his films Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, Mother, and the movie Noah. I heard a lot of mixed reviews about this movie, so I wanted to check it out. The synopsis is as follows. In a town in Idaho, Charlie, a reclusive and unhealthy English teacher, hides out in his flat and eats his way to death. He is desperate to reconnect with his teenage daughter for a last chance at redemption. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. I went into this movie thinking that it was going to be a character piece on someone who was obese, was struggling with binge eating and depression and on their way to death, but desperately wanted to reconnect, whether it was with his students or with his daughter, and try to make good on what was left of his life. What we ended up getting was a bit more busy and convoluted. In a nutshell, yes, Charlie is struggling with binge eating and depression and obesity, and you get to see what his life looks like as he's heading towards death. But his daughter that he hasn't seen in 8 years ends up coming back into his life, and he desperately tries to reconnect before he passes away. But that's not what drives this movie. What drives this movie, unfortunately, is toxic religion. And it makes this movie a lot more niche than it needed to be. Look, I'm not a director, and I cannot claim to have written anything amazing besides some mediocre poetry. But in my opinion, there's easily a way that this movie could have been made without toxic religion being the driving force behind it. You already have the messages going on about Charlie being homosexual and Charlie being obese and having to struggle with the relational drama that's taking place in his life. But when you add toxic religion on top of that, it kind of creates this overwhelming set of messages where the film cannot focus on arguably its most impactful one, which is vision into the life of someone who struggles with obesity, and how this movie had the opportunity to speak to the ignorance of so many people who don't struggle with that same life. And it could have been really powerful, dang it, but it just didn't hit home as hard as I thought it was going to because of the toxic religion subtones driving the whole movie. I was pretty divided myself on the way that I felt about it, and I can see where audiences are coming from. So for me, plot gets a 50-50. 2 is family friendliness. The Whale is rated R. This movie opens with Charlie masturbating to gay pornography. You don't see any nudity on the screen or having to do with Charlie, but it's happening and it's there. In addition to that, you see Charlie fully naked from the front at some point, but his private parts are covered due to his obesity. There's a moderate bit of profanity, and the overall tone of this movie is just really sad. So for me, family friendliness gets a thumbs down. 3 is acting and script. Brendan Fraser's acting performance in this movie was absolutely incredible. I don't really know how to accurately describe the way that it made me feel, but every time that he's on screen, you feel all of the emotions that he is expressing and feeling and shielding but feeling underneath, and every interaction that he has with other members of the cast is just incredible. If I had to sum it up with one word, it would be genuine. Sadie Sink and Hong Chow both had great performances as well, but Brendan Fraser easily stole the show and was the reason why this movie is even a thing. Again, for me, the issue I had with the script is the major inclusion of toxic religion, and really the hatred and the cringe and the friction that causes in this film between both sides is just ugly. And although I know it can happen, in this movie I felt it was unnecessary. You had an excellent story and enough messaging going on that this film could have been amazing, and I feel that inclusion in the script set this film back from that greatness. But for all intents and purposes, acting and script for me get a thumbs up. 4 is character development. The incredible acting performances make the character development that happens in this film even better and make you feel it on a deeper level. As you come to understand more about Charlie as the story progresses, you get to understand his pain and his motivation and the reasons why he does what he does. And the impressive thing about this movie is that it's shown, it's not told. They don't exposition dump on you. You find things out in different subtle ways, whether it's one character just simply seeing Charlie's character and what happens after that. You get some character development with Ellie, although for me, I felt her character and development was a bit more volatile. And it made sense with what had happened in her life, but it made it difficult to really see her arc and her progression throughout the story. So for me, character development gets a thumbs up. 5 is visuals and CGI. This movie is shot almost exclusively in Charlie's house. Again, I will say that making a movie like this is extremely difficult, and you need absolutely incredible acting performances to make it work. Those factors were in play for this movie, and the fact that even though you were in one place for the entire film and didn't feel trapped speak to that fact. I'm sure some CGI was involved in making Brendan Fraser that obese, but if I remember correctly, I think I saw an interview where he said he actually put on a weight suit and lived that life during the scenes while he was shooting this film, and that just makes it all the more impressive to me. So for me, visuals and CGI, I get a thumbs up. And 6 is rewatchability. The Whale is an hour and 57 minutes long, and while the movie was difficult to get through emotionally, the length of the movie felt just right. Due to the nature of this film and the content it decided to include, I feel like this movie is more of an experience than it is something that you would rewatch over and over again. That paired with the driving force behind this movie and the somewhat ambiguous ending, for me, make it a movie that I wouldn't rewatch again. So for me, rewatchability gets a thumbs down. With all these areas considered, I have to give The Whale a 6 out of 10. This movie had a ton of potential. It had an absolutely outstanding acting performance from Brendan Fraser. It had great character development and an underlying story arc that was really nice to watch on screen. It had the opportunity to be so much more than what it was, allowing viewers to see into the life of someone who struggles with depression and obesity and binge eating and the things that they do in their life that other people don't even think about. And instead, it went away from that to push a different message. For me, was the downfall of this movie. I don't know that it's worth it to go see this movie in theaters, but if you choose to watch this movie at all, do it for Brendan Fraser because he deserves a lot of credit for this. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen The Whale, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.